morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today it's time for the Phantom of the Opera. So let me take my cat assistant here, and this is the musical I could talk about forever. I could talk about for an entire semester or perhaps more. If you want to know what I think about it, well, I wrote a book about the cultural phenomenon of the Palais Garnier Opera House in Paris in Polish, but you can look it up. I will give you the article to read. I wrote not long ago for a French music periodical about the musical, and yeah, let's start. It's a subject I really know something about, so I have probably some problems limiting myself, but let's start from the beginning. So the musical with music by Andrew Lloyd Webber and lyrics by beginner in the craft, Charles Hart, with some additions from a more seasoned lyricist, Richard Stilgoe, premiered in London in 1986 and has never since stopped playing. It's staged in the London Her Majesty's Theatre in Haymarket, which has been especially rebuilt or adapted to fit the state of the art in the 80s, definitely. Stage machinery and wonderful sets by Maria Björnsen. Unfortunately, she's passed away, but her art is still there to be seen. There were lots of stagings of this show. Of course, very importantly, 2 years later, in 1988, it was moved to Broadway, winning Tony Awards and Oliver Awards in London, including the Tony for Best Musical and, of course, another Tony for Michael Crawford, who originated the role of the Phantom. This was an interesting story in itself because the actor was not really associated with dramatic roles. He was more of a comical actor, but at least in my opinion, he pulled it off splendidly. The role of Christine was originated by Andrew Lloyd Webber's wife, then wife, they divorced later on, Sarah Brightman, who has continued a singing career, but this was really her debut. Like Christine in this version, she was a dancer turned singer, so many critics believed that at least partially the premise of the Phantom was autobiographical. I think there is a grain of truth in it, really, but we'll probably return to that. So one of the longest playing musicals, the longest playing musical in New York on Broadway. In London, it's only surpassed by Les Miserables, that originated a year before. It's also one of the most successful musicals in terms of financial gain. It used to be the most financially successful entertainment ever until The Lion King surpassed it. So now The Lion King is on number 1 and The Phantom is on number 2. So that's the phenomenon of the musical, and if you read anything about this show, you'll definitely have to start with the long list of financial gains and artistic accolades, and this is really an important musical in the history of the genre. But how did it start? What's the original source of the musical and how does it differ from the stage version. So I ask you to do a bit of research, and I hope you did that. So you will know, hopefully, that this is by far not the only one musical called The Phantom of the Opera, or The Phantom, and not even the first. The immediate inspiration was an earlier show by a man called Ken Hill, which was playing in London. This was an interesting show because it used the original tunes from 19th century operas. The lyrics were different, the lyrics were new, and they were to further the story, but the music was original 19th century opera. And Ken Hill wanted to employ Sarah Brightman as Christine. She didn't have time, but she and Andrew Lloyd Webber went to see the show, and they liked it so much that Webber decided to write his own version. Both these stories were, of course, traceable back to the literary source, and there is a novel, a French novel, of the same name, The Phantom of the Opera, Le Fantôme de l'Opéra, by a popular crime fiction writer called Gaston Leroux. The story, the book, was first published as a newspaper series from 1909 to 1910. Then in 1910 it was published in volume form, and very quickly it was translated into many languages. The first English translation, if you want to look for an English translation, this is probably the one that you will find first because it's free. Now it's available online, you don't have to buy a book. It was ready already in 1911. Then there were, I guess, 5 other retranslations into English. Good morning. It's the new semester. It's even the new year. I hope you survived the Christmas break quite well. Unfortunately, we cannot really go into the garden now. It's snowing, so I decided to film the kind of second view here in the winter garden. Basically, again, I stand by what I said in the previous semester. So if you listen to the remaining parts of this week's videos, you basically know what I think about the Phantom of the Opera. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask me during the live meeting, and we can definitely discuss more. This is, as I said in the beginning, one of the shows I feel I really know and I could discuss for a very long time. At the very end of the video materials, I mentioned a new edition of the book, and I thought it would be a good idea to actually show it to you. And because this part is so short, it looks like the battery died, so we could add something to this. I decided to show you this new edition. That's the new edition in Polish. It's not exactly a new translation, it's the revised version from 2005, which was the most complete edition then. Now it's really complete, and I had a great pleasure of editing this edition. So I hope that for the first time in 100 years we have a good version, good edition of Gaston Leroux's The Phantom of the Opera. So if you would like to know more about the background of the story and the novel that inspired it. And there are quite a few differences, there are quite a few aspects of the tale that are dealt with differently in the novel than in any of the versions. In fact, this is an interesting thing. This book has been adapted so many times for film and stage and inspired other literary works as well. And none of them is faithful to the original source. Which is a good thing and a bad thing in a way, because those new adaptations and new interpretations are interesting, although perhaps, well, it's just me, but I think that the original is still worth a visit or a revisit. So that's basically it. I'll give you all the links I promised in the last semester. You can also find the article I wrote, which has been uploaded to Moodle, so you can read it. It's about the musical. It's about actually the way that Andrew Lloyd Webber adapted the novel and earlier renditions of this story into his own musical. So I look forward to seeing you during the live meeting, and then we can talk some more. Thank you.